Welcome back to another episode of Survivor Worldwide. We're doing the finale recap, and we've got a very special guest with us here today.
Mm.
One of the three finalists here in Survivor South Africa Island of Secret is joining us today, Doral Mariano. Doral, how are you?
I'm great, Chris. Happy to be here live with you.
Yeah, I'm really excited to talk to you. And I do want to give a shout out to, I'm not going to pronounce her last name because I will butcher it. It's one of those difficult ones over there in South Africa. And even for me as a South African, I couldn't pronounce it. But Amber on Instagram, she really tweeted at us or sent a message to us to say, we really want to see Doral in one of these episodes. So Amber, this one's for you. We've got him. We tracked him down. Doral, tell us a little bit about what you've done since Survivor. What's happened since you played the show?
Oh, a lot has happened since I played the show. Being there on the island, I mean, you have a lot of downtime. You get to meditate and reflect a lot. So I see when I get back to South Africa after the island, no matter the outcome, I'm going to change my life and focus on what I really want to do. I mean, I'm 20. I thought I was 28 years old just the other day. I'm actually 31 now. I just turned 31. So since Survivor, I've changed my life. I studied education. I'm now a teacher. And I've been on a couple of other shows. I did a short film. And yeah, it's been great. Life's been great. Survivor was one of the biggest blessings in my life, actually.
Yeah, I noticed that you were on South Africa's Family Feud. I think I got a couple of clips
Yeah.
there. What was it like meeting the man, Steve Harvey?
Wow, it was quite intimidating. I mean, this is a guy that we watched growing up. I don't know if you remember the Steve Harvey show.
Yes.
Steve Harvey show. We watched quite a bit Kings of Comedy, and I was like, this is an opportunity. I did not want to do it. My father asked me if we could enter Family Feud, and I was like, you know what, let's just give it a try. It turns out I worked with that company before. It's called Rapid Blue. So I was on a different show with him called Take Me Out on Zanzi. This was like 5-6 years ago, where it was kind of like a dating show. I did 2 seasons with that. So I think when they saw my application, they probably like, hey, this is Doral. Let's get him going. And we did it. We did a live audition. We did the interview, and voila, meeting Steve Harvey was amazing, man. It was really cool. One of my biggest inspirations too. Yeah.
Yeah, it would have been such a cool opportunity. Now, sort of moving it back to Survivor, what made you want to apply to come on the show? Were you a fan prior to playing the game, or was it something that you
Yeah.
saw that you thought it looked like it could be interesting to take part in?
Well, I like to try new things a lot. And when I found out about Survivor, I was actually in America at the time. I was working. And I thought, you know what, let me just try out. You never know. So I put together a nice fun audition. I made it seem as if I traveled all the way from South Africa all the way to Boston to meet my uncle, Rob Mariano. He's not my uncle, by the way. A lot of people have asked. But yeah, so I made a fun audition. I was actually in America at the time, and I went to the Boston Red Sox stadium, and he's a big Boston Red Sox fan. So I put together this audition. I think I made it through. I got shortlisted, and I was like, wow, now I actually need to start watching Survivor, because I started watching Survivor when I was in high school with Rob, Amber, that season. And the game has changed drastically from that time to where it is like now. So I actually did not prepare while watching all these shows. So I just thought I'm going to go there, be myself, just wing it and see how far it takes me. And it took me all the way to the final. But if I had watched previous seasons, I would have understood more of the gameplay aspect and how strategic it is as compared to how it was when I watched it in high school. So I did not prepare by watching previous seasons, but just last season, which was like in 2000 and something. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, did you sort of take time away from Survivor when you left the game? Did you want to sort of distance yourself from it? Because I know different people, some people stay in that community, they watch more shows after they've come off the show, and some people try and distance themselves a little bit and sort of go back to normal life. What was it like for you coming off the show? What was that routine like for you?
Well, Survivor, I think about it every day, my whole experience. It's a part of who I am now. Wherever you go, people will recognize you. Just yesterday, I went down to this restaurant and I was eating, right? Eating normal. And then you know how I eat. I don't know if you watched the season of Survivor. You saw there's a lot of emphasis on my eating habits. So this one guy like nudged his wife, and as I took the bite and I started chewing, he's like, "It is him, it is him." So, so wherever you go, people would recognize. They would probably look at you. They would maybe say hi and want to take a picture. So in terms of Survivor, the whole community, I love the community. I'm just not the type of person to engage a lot because of my daily activities, my lifestyle. It doesn't allow for me to be such a fan like a lot of people are, and they're always engaging with fans and talking and following all these different episodes and seasons. But I will watch at times, but I'm not serious hardcore Survivor.
Yeah. Have you ever been told that your gameplay was very similar to a previous winner over in the United States, a guy called Fabio? He had long blonde hair, but he was kind of made to believe, everybody thought he was this big goofball, but he actually went all the way
Yeah.
to the end and then won the whole show. Has that comparison made its way to you? And do you even know who that player is?
Yes, heard about it. Somebody messaged me and they said your game's like Fabio. So then I actually researched Fabio, and he was a goofball, you know? And he
Yeah.
was just like, he was this long haired blonde guy, and he was really young when he won the game. And
Yeah.
I think even Mike from Survivor, I remember having this conversation with him on the island, and he's like, Durão, your game is more like Fabio. I didn't know who was Fabio at the time.
Yeah.
And then only it occurred to me when somebody messaged me after the game of Survivor. And then I researched, I was like, oh, I see. And yes, that was actually a great strategy you played. He was himself entirely. I actually played the fool for the most part as well. A joke in
Yeah.
reality. Like, I don't take things serious. I just like to enjoy life. I laugh, I'm a clown. And I mean, that was the ultimate strategy. I mean, people won't take you serious. And before you know it, you're all the way in the final. But my downfall was not owning my game. And I'm the type of person who always believes that the next person deserves it better than me. I'm always putting people first before myself. So that was actually a strength and a weakness. It's
Yeah.
hard to own your stuff. It's hard to boast about what you do. So yeah, it was tough. It was tough being there in the final three. Like shit, I'm here now. What do I do?
And I was
Yeah.
going to say, like, one of the things I think that a lot of new players sometimes do foolishly is they box themselves out of wanting to be the mom or the dad in the tribe or wanting to be a certain person. They want to be who they are. But what you did
Mm,
very well is you leaned into the perception of what people had of you. And that's how I read
mm,
your gameplay as well. I definitely didn't feel like you were a fool because, obviously you had the advantage that you get on the Island of Secrets where you need to go and study these sequences to win an immunity. That looked super hard when you got it, and I think it probably was a little bit harder than what you thought it was going to be as well. How long did it take
really.
you to memorize that before you went out there to go and actually compete?
That was a tough one actually because when I got that, it was like just before sundown. So I don't know if you know if you're on a deserted island because when I was on Isle of Secrets, it's like it's such a small island and it's completely dark. There's no light, nothing. Once the sun's out, it's dark. So I had literally like 15 minutes to try to remember this whole sequence. And I
Wow.
was trying my best. I was trying my best. I was like trying to figure out how. And then like I couldn't sleep, but it was so dark. I couldn't even get a fire going at that time. It was difficult to get a fire. So I was stuck. And then I woke up, I think it was like 2 o'clock in the morning. I saw this bright light, and it was actually the moon shining so brightly. So I went outside. Was completely dark. I walked closer to the ocean. And then I looked and I could see a bit. So I spent like maybe an hour trying to memorize it. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna tough it out and wing it. And then I went to bed, woke up. Next thing you know, I'm getting exported to the game, and I'm like, how am I gonna do this? How am I gonna do this? And when the challenge started, I had it in the bag. I
Respect,
knew it.
because I tell you what, I
Yeah,
wouldn't have done it. Like my memory, like I'm one of those people that need to write everything down. Like if you give me something and I can write it down, I'll figure it out. Same with math and all that. I just don't. Memory wouldn't have. I think that was a lot harder than what people thought. They thought it was a given because you had that
yeah.
advantage. You were going to go and win that immunity. But 15
It
minutes
was
and then only an hour at night. That sounds tough.
it was difficult. And when I got there, I was super confident. When it started, I'm like, you know what, I got this in the bag. I had to tell myself that. And it just came to me. It just came to me. I could actually, for the last round, I remember the whole sequence for the last round. I think we went all the way to 5 rounds or 6 rounds. I knew the whole sequence. I could have been cocky and continued all the way. But I'm like, you know what? Let me just be, be calm, yeah, even not too confident because you can mess up your gameplay. And it turns out the whole tribe kind of expected, no, there's no way Durão's going to remember this. He must have had some kind of advantage. And that was a funny part. Yeah.
Now, one of the big questions I wanted to ask you, and I'm sure you've been asked this question by other people before as well, the Misfits alliance. You guys were one
Mm,
of the alliances that I think a lot of people shouted for because you were the underdog alliance when you, Cipe, and Jark were together. What
mm.
was the main reason that you sort of found it tough to work with Cipe and Jark when you got back together with them at the merge? Because I always thought you guys would at some
Yeah.
stage link back up, but obviously you went the other direction to work with Rob instead.
What had happened was when we came to merge, I remember when I got the advantage when Cipe sent me or they vouched for me to go to the Island of Secrets. So that's when I got the one-time idol. So when I had the opportunity to see them next time, I advised them that look, this is my because I trusted them. It was the only people I could trust at the time was Cipe and Jacques.
Mm.
I said, look, I have my one-time idol, and this is the advantage that I had. When we got to merge, I never get to play it. There was no need for it. But when we got to merge, it turns out everybody knew about my one-time idol. So I was like, you know what? They obviously trusted other people, and they told people. Now everybody knows I can't use it anymore. So then at the time, it's when I met Rob. I don't know. I just felt like he was a nice guy, and as Sipe had mentioned and spoke about him, and I was like, let me get to know him. And it turns out we had a mutual friend, so we started talking about life and stuff, and we had a mutual friend. So I actually felt like, you know what? We're also from the same city. He's from Richards
Mm.
Bay, same province. So I felt like, you know what, Durban, KZN boys, let's do it. Let's do it. So it was easier to trust somebody. I couldn't trust anyone else at the game. So I thought, you know what I mean? Move towards Rob. He seems like the favorite. Yeah, everybody liked him. I stick by his side. I'll probably go far in the game. So yeah, that's where I developed a bond with Rob.
Now, throughout the game, there was different times where people came to you and they tried to take Rob out, but in most of those cases, you went back to Rob and you gave him Nico made that joke. You were Rob's island of secrets out on the island because you would take all the information back to him. One
Yeah.
of the things I wanted to ask was, towards the end there, when you got to the final four, what was your sort of thinking in regards to your way that you could sell your games sort of differently to Rob and Nicole? And if Leticia came to you at that point and she told you
Mm.
that she had the vote nullifier, would you have considered making a move there with Leticia to potentially take a Nicole out to have like a big move going into the finale?
You see, that's the thing. That's where I say I watch old school Survivor. If I watched a new school Survivor, I would have known better to use gameplay and people like big moves. That would have been a perfect opportunity to play a big move. And if you made it to the final
Hmm.
three, I mean, show the jury some jury will have respect for you. And like, you never know, I could have got maybe 1 or 2 votes just by pulling out a move like that. But at the time, I'm just a loyal person, and I trusted. I had no choice but to keep trusting Rob and Nicole too. She kind of like saved me at the time when she played her idol for me. So I couldn't backstab. I don't have. I can't betray people. I don't have the killer instinct in me. So it was very difficult.
Yeah.
So I played it with tried my best to play with integrity and just been loyal to the people that got me ahead in the game. So if I'd watched New School Survivor, chances are I would have maybe sided with Leticia. You would have taken Nicole out. Could have been me, Leticia, and Rob in the final. And I believe if that was the case, there would have been a better chance of me getting some votes. Yeah.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask you, you had one of the tougher roads to get to the finale, and you were
True.
in a lot of different. You were swapped the whole time you were on
Mm,
your own. You had Rose Lee go with you to that first swap. What was your early relationships like in that first tribe? Like we saw you with Rocco and Leticia a
yeah.
little bit. Were you sort of close to Rocco and Leticia? Because Rose Lee was sort of seen as more close to the other sort of side of that camp. What was the dynamics
Yeah.
like there for you in the early stages?
So the first LeMay with Rocco, the guys kind of formed a clique. But Rocco would come to me and tell me, like, you know what, I can't trust Jeff and I think it was Mike at the time. Like he had these
Yeah.
suspicions about him. He felt like they were forming a different alliance. But we made a pact. So I thought, you know what? I think we call it the Wolf Pack or something. We just thought, it's just going to be us guys. But Rocco was on the fence with them. And at the time, Rocco was my number one. So Rocco and I bonded a lot over fitness and just a lot of things. He's a genuine person. He was a likable person too. So I would have been with Rocco all the way. And when it came to the tribe swap, Rocco was no longer. So it was just myself and Rosalie. And then I felt like I could trust Rosalie over everyone else. I had no choice. So at the time, Rosie and I bonded, but we never bonded before. We never bonded that much before the tribe swap because it was more like a guy thing. And I feel like there was Maba, Rosalie, Leticia, and oh no, there was Rosalie. Um, there was
Maba,
Rosalie,
Jeffrey, and
Jeff,
Mike, I think.
Maba, and Mike. They had a lines. So it was Leticia, Rocco, who were also close, and it was myself. So it was tough for me, not knowing where I would have been there. But because of the tri swap, it was just me and Rosalie all the way. And it was actually sad when she left. Like at the time, I felt like it should have been me and not her. It was
Mm.
sad to see people go at the time. But yeah, Rosalie played a good game. She just never have a lot of opportunities to get ahead because of the tribe swap.
Yeah, now I want to sort of change it away from strategy a little bit. One of the things that I saw was that you lost 18 kilograms of weight while you were out
Phew,
there. So for the American listeners, that's 40 pounds of weight.
that's
That's a
tough.
lot of body weight to lose. And I think that you said you went for something like 6 days without having any food. What was your
Mm,
strategy out there to sort of, forget it? Like, I know you loved food, and like, listen, if I ever
big
had to play
time.
the game, I love food as well. But what was your strategy to sort of get your mind not to think about the food and the starvation while you were out there?
Well, a couple days in is the worst because you're so hungry. You just want to eat everything you can see, and and then afterwards your body kind of adapts where you can actually go a day or two without eating because you're tired of eating just coconuts, which is most of the time available at the time. We used to get creative with the coconuts. We used to like try to fry it, and we used to make like a paste. And we're just tired of eating coconuts. So I just drank water every now and again, and I was actually quite fine. I went so long without food, I didn't even think about food because I just couldn't eat coconuts all the time. But what I did do, and a lot of people don't know this. I started stealing bananas from the tribe. So we
Yeah.
had some bananas when they weren't looking, when they were maybe swimming in the ocean or just going for their walks. I would take one and maybe two and just go around the corner, eat it, and throw the peels far away. It just kept getting, it just kept getting low and low, and people wondered. And at one point, I kind of confessed to it. I confessed to one person where the whole tribe knew that I was stealing bananas afterwards. But that was also part of me surviving. Is the bananas, the protein, the energy that you needed to keep you going. Yeah.
That sounded tough. And did you ever do any like camping or go out to the outdoors? Was this something that you found that was quite easy for you to adapt to, or was this quite a new experience for you going out there?
No, for me, I that was the first. Never camped in my life. It actually got to a point where even if I had to walk on sand, it just felt funny. That was before Survivor. Now I can actually stand outside in the rain. I can actually go camping. I can sit on the floor. I can do anything because of my whole Survivor experience. It was like my life for so long that it's more like natural to be sitting out in the open or going camping. I did camping once after Survivor, but I had no experience. So my strategy when it comes to camp life and helping out was just assist wherever you can. Volunteer. Who needs help with this? Just if somebody directs you to do something, I would do it. I'm part of the team, but I would not take the lead when it comes to that because I don't know anything. And I think just the fact that I was so helpful, it actually at one stage I was really injured, and I was still. I don't know if you remember there was a challenge where Rob pulled me so hard. I think
Mm.
actually I never tear my hamstring, but I pulled my hamstring, and that was like an injury that could put you off for 3 or 4 weeks. And I had to walk with this injury and pretend that I'm not in pain because if they could see some weakness, you could be the next one out of the game. So even though I was injured, I was still trying my best to help out, and people were feeling sorry for me, like, "Oh, Dural's trying, he's hurt, he shouldn't be doing this." And that was good for me. They're feeling pity for me, and they could see I was trying. So it just showed my camp life was actually quite good, just blending in with everyone.
So I'm interested to know, Doral, like, what was your favorite moment, your personal favorite moment with being out there on Survivor? And it could be something that was on the show, or it could be something that never
Mm.
made the show as well.
So there was quite a few. One of the highlights for me was when it was Jacques and I, the Misfits, when it was Sipe, myself, Jacques, and Tanya, and we were going up against Rob, Rocco, all the guys. It was a slingshot challenge. It was a reward challenge for food. It was
Mm.
donuts. And we were the underdogs. There was no way we were going to win that. we fought and we kept fighting, and we went back and forth. I feel like the challenge lasted 2 hours of running constantly, and Jacques and I pull out the victory, and we won that challenge. So that for me was one of the biggest highlights, because I wish it was a bigger reward challenge, because that was one of the few ones we won. But it was donuts, and just the fact that we won up against those guys was amazing for me. I also did enjoy my chats with most of the people on the tribe. There was times where we'd wake up 5 o'clock. I don't even know what time it was. It could be 5 o'clock in the morning, just before sunrise. We just stand out there and just watch the sunrise, and just quiet. Just that quietness with your fellow tribe mates was beautiful. Yeah, so those were one of my highlights.
And you mentioned there your tribe mates and having conversations and things like that with them. Did you remain quite close to people that you played the game with, and who are you still in contact with currently, like who played the season?
I think we're going to say in contact. I think most of the time, like, we don't chat or have conversations or call, but like on Instagram or maybe Facebook, just like a comment or maybe just respond to a Facebook update, or now and again wish somebody happy birthday. So I feel like that's how people are keeping in contact until we have like this big reunion. Maybe it could be the next finale for season 8. But yeah, Steffi and I are close. I saw her quite a bit after Survivor. Met up with Rob as well. Chat to Jeff. Mike and I talk every now and again. It's just like if somebody reaches out, I'll reach right back out and we have a conversation. So yeah.
So Steffi's forgiven you for writing her name down every single time on Island.
That was funny. That was the biggest joke, because like she kind of expected I was going to write down her name. I had no choice. But yeah, she has forgiven me. She's a very forgiving person.
She actually, she looks like a really cool chick, and I've spoken to her once or twice now as well, and there's a good chance we'll get her on the show as well, and I'm actually looking forward to that, because if there was ever an international Survivor show out there where you've got the US, Australia, and South Africa all playing against each other, Steffi's the first girl I'm writing down, because I just think she's a beast.
No, she is. She's hardcore. Have you seen her run? Justice. No, she is hardcore, man. There was a challenge we did. I think it was the first individual immunity. Now, I used to make a mistake on the Game of Survivor. I used to say tribal immunity instead of saying individual immunity, because now things are different. But yeah, we did the first individual immunity challenge, and I was right next to her, and she was holding this bucket up. Like, she just kept holding it. She was just like, she was a beast, man. Nothing was like going to defeat her there. And I saw she's going to win this challenge. I had no chance. And yeah, she's a fighter.
Yeah, 100%. Now, if you were asked to go out and do Survivor again, play the show again after you've done it this first time, would you be interested in playing the game again? And, there's different themes. I don't know if you're aware of this. If there was like a blood versus water theme where you get to go out there with a family member, who would be the family member you'd take with you? So 2 questions. Would you play again? And if you were to do a blood versus water, who do you take out there with you?
Okay, so yeah, I would definitely play the game in a heartbeat. If I get asked, I'm like, there, I'll drop everything and do it. The experience and just the fact that I can go back and kind of like redeem myself and play in a more strategic game. I was strategic in a way, but maybe playing more with some passion and take those opportunities that presented. There's a lot of opportunities that presented themselves to me, and I just did not do much about it. But I kind of knew that it was in line with my game plan. But when I need to be the bad guy, I think I would be the bad guy. I just did not be the bad guy at times when I needed to. So I'll play the game in a heartbeat. If I had to bring somebody along, I think it just have to be my brother. My brother, he's the opposite to me. He's too serious. He's hardcore. I feel like he would be the leader of the tribe. So yeah, that's somebody I would want to bring in if we had to do a blood versus water. Yeah.
No, you'd want to bring someone in that's going to complement your skill set out there as well if you were to play the game for sure. And I don't know your brother, but if he's that opposite of you, then I think that's a good strategy. Now, also another question I wanted to ask you: are you across the new season coming out, Survivor Immunity Island? Are you across the people that are coming in to play this game? What's your advice to any of the new castaways that are going to play this upcoming season in regards to handling the fame and all the attention that comes with being on the show?
My advice to them is just don't think about everything. Just go out and just embrace the moment. You are going to get a lot of hate mail, or you're going to get people that like you and people that don't like you. just focus on the positive. I mean, you were able to be on a show that maybe 50,000 or 60,000 South African people had applied for, and you got selected. I think it's 21 castaways. So
Yeah,
just that alone is magical, and it's something that you should own it. So my advice to them is, don't worry about the negativity. Focus on the positive and just embrace everything. Just embrace it, because the fact that you have a life-changing moments of just being on Survivor, that's something that will live with you forever. There's not a day that goes by where I don't think about Survivor and how it's changed my life for the better. So I'm grateful that more people get to experience what I did. And I'm happy for
that's
the
awesome.
Castaways. Yeah.
I'm hoping there's plenty of more seasons out there and that we do get to see our first All-Star season in Survivor South Africa and that you are a part of that cast. Because for me personally, I said this to you the first time I said it on Instagram, and I'm sure you've gotten it from both ways where people try and butter you up or some people
Yeah.
don't. Like, I actually did enjoy, you were one of my favorite players of the season. You were a lot
Oh
of fun
wow.
to watch on the show. And I love the fact that you had your heart on your sleeve out there. And the thing is, if we
Yeah.
get 20 players playing the game like game bots, like we super
Mm.
fans call them. They're like game bots and
Yeah.
they just do everything correct all the time. It will also make for a boring season. So you need people that haven't seen a lot of the strategy before, people that just go out there to have fun, all this kind of things.
Yeah.
And I think you added a lot as a character, in the show. I think you added a lot. So I hope that in itself will give you or give Leru Buta and the guys who make the decisions, they'll reach out to you if
Yeah.
they have an all-stars. You've got my endorsement definitely to come back.
Oh, thanks,
Another
man.
question I wanted no issues. Another question I wanted to ask you just before we leave, is there anything that you wanted to shout out or let people know about? Any projects you've got going on or places where people can follow you, for instance? What's happening at the moment? This is your time. You can plug anything here.
So I got a small business which is called Miwana. I do smoothies, so little smoothie packs, yeah, in Durban, and I supply to people in the area at some shops and stuff. But basically, what you can do is just follow me on Instagram at Doral. A teacher, that's my lifestyle right now, giving back to the community, trying to impact as many lives as possible. So that's who I'm going to be for the rest of my life.
That's awesome. And what are you teaching? What subject did you decide to choose? Or is it in primary school where you teach everything?
Yeah, basically primary school where I teach most, but maths and physics, maths and science is my main subjects that I specialize in. But other than that, you teach everything when you're in primary school.
Oh, I would have gotten in a lot of trouble at school with you with maths and science. I think maths I was okay. Science was never
Yeah,
one of my strong suits for some other reason. I know most people, if they're good in one, they're automatically good in the other one, but I just didn't like science for some other reason. But no, it's great. It's
yeah.
great that you changed that and that you found a passion there for you while you were out on the island. And Durão, it's
Mm.
been great talking to you. About your experience out there, and I'm glad to hear that overall it was a positive experience for you as well. Guys, if you're watching this, in a few seconds, you'll see me back, and I will have Jake with me, and we will be recapping the finale with you. Durão, it's been great having you on the show, and we'll talk soon. All right, guys, there you have it. You would have just heard Doral on the interview with myself there, talking about his time on Survivor and what a character has Doral been this whole season, Jake. What did you think of Doral's run here in Survivor South Africa Island of Secrets? And also, welcome back to the Survivor Worldwide coverage. This is the first time we've got you on here for this season.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. I've been wanting to come on, so I'm glad to be here. Doral, he was definitely one of my favorites this season. Just the comic relief. Just, just he was just clueless, and it was just you always got to have one of those guys like Doral every season that just is not really in the strategy, just is kind of clueless. So it was good to have him.
Yeah, Doral for me reminded me a lot of Fabio in Survivor Nicaragua. He had a similar kind of storyline to Fabio, but I actually think you have to put a bit of respect on Doral's name because he voted with the majority in most cases and knew where the votes were going. But Fabio, who won Nicaragua, he was out on a lot of those votes. So I mean, give some respect to Doral. Like, yes, he wasn't the strategic mastermind, the person who was running the game, but his social game and being able to pivot and go to where the power is when it needed to happen, and identifying that Rob was the person that he needed closest to him to actually be able to survive this, post-merge game, I think should be applauded to a certain degree.
That's true. He knew that Rob was the right guy to align himself with, and I mean, he made it to the end, but 0 votes. So
100%. So that sort of brings up the question, Jake. If you were to play Survivor, would you rather be that person that gets voted out pre-merge, or would you rather be the person that gets all the way to the finale and have 0 votes?
I would rather make it to the finale and get no votes because more prize money and you just get to experience more of the game. You get to get the full 39 days instead of flaming out, and you get to see what happens throughout the entire game. You don't have to leave before the merge. So
Yeah, 100%. Now, we get into this episode here, the finale, and the first thing that we're seeing is the fallout between Nicole and Leticia. Leticia has been pretty quiet throughout most of the game. She played in the shadows. A lot of her strategy didn't necessarily always make the TV show, but we find out quite a lot here in regards to her trying to put this all women's alliance together for quite a while. And apparently, this all started with the first swap when she tried to do something with Meryl. But she banked here towards the end game that she was going to be able to pull Steffi and Nicole together to take out Rob. And Nicole goes and betrays Steffi and also Leticia in the spot. And Leticia is very upset about it. And she says that, Nicole, you're someone that has been preaching loyalty and integrity throughout this whole game, but you're not setting a great example for your kids.
yeah, we've seen this kind of thing before with Twyla in Vanuatu. Kind of, she lied about something, and then everyone's like, kind of blasting her for because they're a mom. And I feel like if I mean, Nicole was preaching, loyalty and, honesty, but I do feel like the fact that she was a mom kind of it made a Letitia more mad than maybe if it was a dad or just someone that didn't have kids. So yeah, this was Letitia's breakout episode right here. She was just going off on her time, just saying she kind of had a few confessionals that were repeating the same sentiment, just you know, blasting Nicole for her, dishonesty. And yeah, I feel like she was a bit harsh on saying, she's not setting a great example for her kids.
Yeah, and listen, I'm going to say this, right? So Nicole made the right decision when she chose not to stick with Steffi and Leticia at this point, because you had Leticia there with the vote nullifier, which is a new game twist mechanic, which we'll talk in a bit about what you think about that game mechanic. But she had the vote nullifier and she had Steffi there as her closest person. And in the previous episode, Steffi and Leticia were talking about the fact that even if Rob wins this next immunity, they will be able to dictate who goes into the finale with them, because Steffi and Leticia were always going to vote together. So if Nicole didn't take the shot here at Steffi, Nicole would not have made it to the finale. So I do give credit for Nicole for reading that situation correctly. I feel like Nicole 100% was willing to cut Rob if he didn't win. But she knew she needed to pivot when Rob won that immunity, and she knew that Rob probably had a good chance at winning this last immunity. Nicole didn't know exactly what advantage Leticia had, but she didn't believe Leticia when Leticia didn't share the information of what she got on the Island of Secrets in the previous episode. It made her very wary of Leticia. So some really good gameplay here, but I feel like what really soured Nicole, sort of the taste in the mouth of Leticia with Nicole, was the fact that Nicole sort of preached quite a lot about integrity and setting an example for her kids, and playing the moral high ground in all these tribal councils and talking that way. And Leticia just felt like Nicole wasn't really living up to what she was preaching. And I feel like there's a fine line between playing that type of game, being very good socially and strategically, and being able to work with everybody and promise them the world, and then just taking that one step too far. I do feel like Nicole potentially took it that one step too far in this instance. But again, I hear what you're saying as well. At the end of the day, it is just a game, which is what Nicole tells Leticia at one stage here in this episode as well, where she says it is purely just a game.
Yeah. And you can see Nicole almost, made up for it at Final Tribal Council, where she just towards the end was like, you know what? Yeah, I lied. I was playing the game. Uh, that's what I had to do to get here. So if I didn't do that, I wouldn't have been here. And it got her 4 votes. She almost won
Mm,
the season. And I remember when I first watched this, I was watching the live reading of the votes. I saw like 3 votes come in for Rob, and I'm like, okay, yeah, probably unanimous. And then
mm.
4 votes came in for Nicole, and I was like, oh my gosh, is she about to win? But Rob pulled out the last couple votes, and he won, but very close between him and Nicole. And at the end of the day, it was her, you know, moral high ground kind of BS that turned people off from voting for her, and just Rob's dominance. But I do feel like, she played a great game, and she had her moments.
Yeah, 100%. I think she was extremely savvy. I think her social game was probably almost as strong as Rob's, if not stronger, because like she said there at the end, that she ended up, if Rob was the person who had all the information, she was the web that was connecting that information back to Rob. And Rob has also admitted here on this podcast when we had him on talking about why people should watch International Survivor. He said that, he wouldn't have won the show without Nicole, and Nicole working that closely with him. So they did stay true to each other along sort of quite deep into the game. But we do see here in this episode, Rob now feels like, he's seeing through Nicole a little bit more. And a lot of what Nicole does when she's talking to Rob here, Rob is now more wary of this. But quite interestingly here, Rob always decided to take Nicole here with him to the finale after he won that final immunity challenge. And Rob did the right thing here. He did the age-old, who does the jury hate? And I agree with you. When I watched this season the first time, I thought that Nicole was going to get demolished in the final tribal council, because she had such massive reactions on that jury towards her, and negative massive reactions, that I thought that this was just going to be a close and shut case. There's no chance that she can get any votes, and she comes really close to beating one of the best players we've ever seen play any version of Survivor. So you've got to take your hats off to that, and I feel like she can hold her head high when it comes to that. But one of the things that really annoyed me here, and I feel like this comes again into how her game sort of was throughout the whole season, is she talks here at the end about, the bad guys are all out, the good guys made it, and what do you think about this whole sentiment between good guys and bad guys? How does that sit with you when you watch these types of shows?
It's just, it's just very self-centered. Just like, you're just thinking like, oh, I'm the hero throughout the entire, like, when you're playing the game. Like, it's kind of like Sugar in Gabon. Like, she
Mm.
voted people out because she thought she like didn't like them as people, and didn't think that they were good people. At Final Tribal Council, Crystal asks her, why did you vote me out? And she's like, because you're rude, and I don't think you're a good person, and I think I'm a good person, and I brought good people with me. It's just, it turn it's a turn off for me, and I can only imagine it's a turn off for the jury. If I was on the jury, I would, basically, you're telling me, oh yeah, I only made it here because I'm a good person, and you're over there because you're a bad person. I don't like that.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of it either. I think that it brings a bad taste in the mouth of the jury sitting there, because nobody here was really a bad guy or anything like that. And I mean,
Um,
it got pretty. And I had an interview with Jack Berger last night, which will be live, I believe, this week, Wednesday, over in the States. We'll put it up. And we do go into a little bit of Survivor Immunity Island as well, and what we think will happen there as well towards the end of it. Jack's always a good person to talk to when it comes to Survivor in general. And the way he was treated throughout the season, where they kind of ostracized him and put him to the side and put him in his place, and him not even being able to sleep in the shelter that night, which I don't even think that might air. And we spoke about that a little bit in our interview. There was some bad stuff happening, and then still people are thinking that they're the good people in this going into the end, which for me is crazy. And I'm not calling Nicole a bad person. I don't think she's a bad person. I don't think, Rob or any, like, I actually do really appreciate it that when you're out there, it becomes a you versus them mentality. And Rob kind of brings that into this episode where he says that he literally felt like he was fighting for his life, and I think you go into that fight or flight mechanics and we become very tribal when everything is stripped away from us and we're playing this game. But I don't like seeing this good versus evil conversation whenever it makes the TV, because to me, it's a game. There is no good, there is no evil. Yes, we have great seasons like Heroes versus Villains over in the US, but the villains were probably more loved than the heroes playing that season in any case, because there were such good villains in that show, right?
Yep. Yeah, no, I completely agree. It's just a game. There is no, I don't think anyone is really, besides, maybe Varner, there's no really evil actions done on the show. It's just a game. You're just trying to win $1 million. So yeah, I agree. I don't like this whole moral good evil stuff being brought into it.
Yeah, and it's quite interesting because there was a massive sort of pull for women equality and getting all women's final three here. And, Nicole saying that she was all for it because she was quite angry at the time that Rob didn't choose her for the reward. And she was also going to go that way. But then she decided to lift powerful men with her like Doral and Rob and people who helped her throughout the game. And that's just another thing that I also want to say. I know it's such a big thing in our culture these days, the social justice side of it, but I don't always necessarily like seeing this on my TV screen when I'm watching a reality show, because you kind of try and watch these TV shows to get away from reality. I understand if you have to stand up and defend it because someone is attacking women equality on the show or someone is doing something that is racially insensitive. Yes, definitely in those cases stand up for it. But sometimes I feel like in this case, I didn't feel like anybody on this season was against women equality or anything like that. So I don't always like seeing that type of thing hit the show. But there is something to be said for the fact that, it's been 3 seasons in a row now where we've had only men win the show in Survivor South Africa. And I wonder what type of target that is going to set on men going into Survivor Season 8, and if that's going to play into that at all, and if we actually will see a female win this next season.
Yeah, I don't mind it too much when it comes up. I don't really like it influencing the game because it just it doesn't feel organic. It's just like, oh, I'm only making this decision so a woman can win. I think it should be it's just like you put 20 people out there, let them go at it based on what they think is the right decision, aside from, outside things in the United States or in South Africa or in their culture, you know. Um, yeah, I think there's definitely going to be some of this in the next season of South Africa, and I think even in um the season 41 of US, I think there's going to be, because it's been even longer. I think the past 6 or 7 winners of US have been men. So
Yeah, Sarah Lucina was the last female winner over in Survivor in the US, and I feel
yeah,
like it was like season 34 or 33. I think it's 34 maybe. It's been a
34.
while. In
Yeah.
any case, it's about 6 seasons or so since we've had a female
Yeah.
winner over there, and it is quite shocking because if you look at the first 10 seasons of Survivor in the US, it was actually 5-5. It was quite even throughout that first 10 seasons, and it's actually you'd imagine with people being more socially conscious and aware these days that it would have stayed equal, or it would have gotten even more in the way of females. But for some other reason, it hasn't gone down that way. But I agree with you.
Mhm.
I don't want to go into the game thinking about these things. Even if I was to play it, I wouldn't want to think about, we've had so many females win, so I want to align with men now. I'm going to box myself and limit myself into this category where I have to work with men to get a win for the men. I don't like that being sort of, like you said, forced and it not being organic within
Mhm.
the game. Also wanted to touch on here, we get to the final four immunity, and it's the challenge where they've got these wooden pieces that they've got to hold with the ball balancing on top of it, and they have to add continuously to it. And Rob pulls out another win here. He does go up against Nicole, and Nicole, I'll take my hat off to her. She calls herself a middle-aged woman. I wouldn't know if I would go that far, but she really competed well against Rob throughout the season, and there was a few times where she was the second person standing there until the end. But Rob ends up getting a record equaling, if you look at international Survivor, or a record breaking, if you look at Survivor South Africa, run here in immunity wins, and he gets his 5th immunity challenge, which it's very rare for people to win 5 immunity challenges. And one of the things I wanted to sort of bring up here is that, when we look at a lot of players out in the US, like Ben comes to mind, or Ben not so much, actually, let's use Mike Holloway as an example here. People penalize him a lot for his immunity wins. Why do you think that Rob's not being penalized for his immunity wins to get him here till the end? Because Rob actually mentioned here that if he didn't win all of these immunities, he potentially could have gone home. And I do think in the previous episode, he probably would have gone home if he didn't win it.
I think the difference between Mike and Rob is that Rob really capitalized on those immunity wins. He's like, okay, I'm safe now. I can really, make some things happen. With Mike, he never really got, his foot fully into what he wanted to do. He kept surviving, obviously. He kept winning, but he never really, until pretty late in the game, really like got what he wanted. But Rob, he even said it in Final Tribal, every single time he went to tribal council, he knew who he was going home. It was who he wanted to go home. He knew who everyone on the other side was voting for. He knew everything that was going to happen. Sure, he could have potentially been voted out, but if he didn't win, but he did, and when he did, he capitalized it.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And Rob definitely was in control of the votes throughout the season, and he knew where everything was, and he had a lot more social capital than Mike Holloway. And I think the thing with Mike Holloway is he had control in the beginning of the game, and then he lost it after the merge, and he really sort of fell out of that alliance that he was with, and struggled to work his way back into a position of power where he could actually influence anything via the social game. So if you had to look at Rob's win as a whole, and you had to put it in there with any of the international games, would you say that Rob played a top 5, a top 10 type of Survivor game, or where would you sort of rank him? I know it's hard to do these kinds of things off the top of your head, but if you had to compare him to all the winners we've seen in any version of the Survivor show, so you can include the Australian ones in there as well, where do you sort of place his win?
I would say easily top 10, probably top 5. I did make a winner rankings, I think, after David versus Goliath, but I haven't really gone back to it. It's pretty a lot with a lot of these winners kind of in the middle. It's pretty redundant. Like a lot of them are just really close. But with the top, there are a lot of good winners, and I think Rob is 100% among them. I would probably go as far to say that he's top 5 of any
Yeah,
version.
I kind of, for me personally, if I had to, like I always say on here, if anybody listens to it, that winner rankings shouldn't matter, but it's still fun to do them, right? And if you're a winner
Yeah,
and you're
yeah,
listening to this at any stage, who cares? Like, I mean, if you ask me, would you want a Chris Underwood win to go on Survivor? I would say yes. I'll even take Chris Underwood's win. I don't care. I still have the $1 million.
yeah,
I'm gonna
yeah.
forever. My name is gonna be amongst the winners circle, and no one can take that away from me. So who really cares where you rank? But it's still fun to do it. And when I think about Rob's win, I actually think that his win is very similar for me personally to a Kim Spradling Wolf or a Boston Rob type of win. But what makes it even more impressive is that he did this on his first go. So for me, that puts him closer to a Kim Spradling Wolf type of game in regards to how he played and how dominant he was throughout this season. But one of the things that I think would be interesting to see is if Rob's game could be replicated and done again, because there was a lot of things this season that just didn't make sense. And myself and Riley spoke about it throughout the whole season. The fact that they were willing to share idols with each other, tribal idols being there, and things like that. It's just it was interesting gameplay by some of the people that he played this season with. And you kind of have to take that into consideration as well. And how well would he have done if he played with more savvy players?
Well, I mean, you were comparing him to Kim Spradlin, and in her season, there was a tribe that chose to go to tribal council, so maybe it's not too, too much of a stretch. But I understand what you're saying. There were a lot of weird decisions in this season, and that's why I love it. Um, in terms of of how that affects Rob's ranking or how it could be replicated. Um, yeah, it would be very difficult to replicate this. With the whole Island of Secrets and how he controlled the Island of Secrets, that would be obviously
Mm.
impossible to replicate on a season without it. Um, but yeah, I mean, every season has some dumb decisions, has some weird things. So I don't think it penalizes him too much.
No, 100%. Now, we see here early in the episode, Letitia is the person that's going to get voted out right in the fourth spot, and she's not going to be able to sort of weasel her way into that final three. And I want to take my hat off to Letitia, being the oldest person coming into this season. At one stage, she actually thought that, it would be better for her to leave the game and get voted out because she didn't want to be the reason that her tribe mates couldn't get rewards. So clearly a great person in life, not the best strategy for Survivor. But, she, like Rob said, was like this stingray throughout the season. She's a lot smarter and more savvy than what a lot of people gave her credit for. And she waited for her opportunity to strike. In a different scenario, if Rob did not win that challenge, she could have taken Rob out here. And one of the things I'm really interested in is what would have happened hypothetically in your mind if Rob decided to let go of Doral or Nicole in this spot and Letitia made it to the final. Do you think Letitia had a chance at getting some votes here? Because to me, it seemed like the jury really were divided between Rob and Nicole. They didn't really want to vote for either one of them that much. But Doral just didn't give them anything in regards to why they should vote for Doral. He didn't sell himself there at the end.
Yeah, so if she makes it to the end instead of Doral or Nicole, I don't think she wins. I do think she gets some votes because she was the opposition to Rob. With Nicole and Doral, they both played with Rob and helped him get to the end, whereas Letitia wanted him gone and was actively trying to get him out and was, in opposition to him. So I think there would have been like, okay, now we kind of have as Jock said, you know, they couldn't really tell where Rob's game started and Nicole's ended. So with Letitia, it's very clear, two very different games. So I think there would have been some votes that went her way because of that.
What could Letitia have done differently in your mind in regards to the vote nullifier? And what do you think of the vote nullifier being introduced into the game so late and can be played up until the final four here?
It's an interesting twist. When I was rewatching this, I didn't realize that it could be played at 4. So when she was talking about playing it going into the tribal council, I was very confused. I thought, are we about to like see like a ha moment, like where she tries to play it, but she can't? But no, it could have been played. She just chose not to, like they mentioned at the reunion. Um,
Hmm.
I'm not a huge fan of advantages that can be played at the final four, like obviously it's not at the same level as the super idol that Terry and Yule had, but I just feel like that should just be a pure vote, no advantages, just pure one person has immunity. The rest is just strategy. Um, I don't really know what she could have done differently. Nicole kind of had her mind made up with betraying Steffi and sticking with Rob. I don't remember exactly like how the votes laid out at the final 5, but
Hmm.
I don't remember if she
Let me
could
jump
have
in.
maybe.
let me jump in
Okay.
on this.
Yeah.
I feel like the thing that she should have done here, and again, shoulda, coulda, right? I'm sitting on the sideline here, and I wasn't out there, so
Yeah.
I don't know the
Right.
dynamics. But I know her and Doral didn't have much of a working relationship throughout the whole season, and Doral never really bothered to ask Letitia where she was sitting, which was a mistake on Doral's part, and that sort of came up. I think it was around the final six, the final seven, where Letitia said, "Did you ever bother to ask me who I was with?" And both Mike and Doral did it, right? So that's a really bad thing for any Survivor player who wants to go out there. You always talk to everyone and you keep your options open with every single person that's in the game. The thing here for me, the move here for me is even if she hasn't worked with Doral, a last resort here, she went to Rob and to Nicole to try and convince them to vote out Doral so she could have got into the final. I think the best play here is to go to Doral and say, "Hey, Doral, me and you have not worked together this whole season. I get it. There's no incentive for you potentially to keep me, but I've got this advantage that I can use, which means that we can steal a vote. So basically, you and me tonight can be the deciders of who goes into the actual finale here. And why not take out Nicole, who has been a great player this season? She's played a lot of people, she's manipulated a lot of people out of the game. Yes, the jury maybe isn't that happy with her, which will get onto her whole strategy of what she wanted Rob to sort of do with Nicole, because I felt like she actually sold why Nicole should go to the final instead of why Rob should vote her out. But to Doral, she sort of said, "Listen, let's you and me make a move here because Doral, up until this point, I don't know how you're going to get votes. You don't have a move here that you can claim at the end to say I've played the game or I did something that Rob didn't tell me to do. Here, you can do something now that Rob will not tell you to do, and you can cut down his right arm, in the stage, and you can say, listen." I didn't do everything that Rob wanted me to do. I had a move at the end to take out Nicole. And that, I think, is something that could have been appealing to Doral. Doral was a mover and a shaker throughout the season. He did go where the power was. And just her telling him that she's got this advantage might have made him scared of going against her, or that it could be used against him, for instance. So it gives her a little bit of maneuver here where she can move around. But sadly, she didn't go down that road. Now, I do want to ask you, and I touched on something else here, which is that, when Letitia goes to Rob, she says to Rob that, the jury doesn't respect Nicole, and, taking her to the finale would be seen as a bad thing. She's selling at the end of the day, right, to Rob why he should be taking Nicole to the end here, and that strategy is not working with him.
Yep. That's exactly what was going through my head. I don't really see how that was a bad thing to him. You know, in his head, he's thinking, "Yeah, I'm aware. I know. That was my entire plan. I know that she's rubbed people the wrong way." Um, so that was it was a strange strategy to try to sway him to vote her out, because it's kind of the sugar strategy. Oh, don't like them or respect how they're playing. Let's vote them out, not bring them to the end. Um, or maybe a woo. If he would pulled a woo and voted out Cass or um, Nicole.
Yeah, 100%. And we go in here to the final day. They all sit on the beach. They have that lunch or the breakfast the next day. All of them talk about the different ways that they went into this game and how they got to the final. Nicole spoke about the fact that she feels that the jury is going to attack her social game, but that will make for an epic finale because she can convince them on why that was needed for her to play the game in such a cutthroat way like she did. Durão says that a lot of people wouldn't have expected him to be there. He didn't expect to be there, but he had more hurdles to get over than anyone else because Doral, for the longest period of time, was really a one-man band. He had allies at certain points in the game, but I do feel like Dural's road to the end was not an easy one. So I do feel like, in my mind, Doral had an opportunity here in the finale to potentially get some votes. It's just he didn't sell himself, because I do think that the jury went in there without having their mind made up. And let's talk about Jark here, because Jark goes quite heavily on Doral really early on in the finale here. And he says that, thank you, Doral, for doing a service to the Survivor community, because you've shown them how to not play the game moving forward. And for years from now, people will still look at your game and say they don't want to play the game like Doral. What did you think of Jark and that comment that he sort of made there in the early stages here with Doral?
I didn't care for it. I thought it was a bit too mean spirited. Everyone has the way they played the game. You don't think that was how he should have played the game. Well, that's your opinion. Um, you know, kind of over the course of this, maybe I was a bit too harsh on Doral at the beginning of this. I do think that there were some things he could have said, or maybe a few decisions he could have made before final tribal that could have swayed them. Maybe just he just could have tried to show that, Rob wasn't he said like it was like that he was being bullied and that Rob like protected him. That's just not a very good argument. He kind of needs to do the opposite and show how Rob didn't protect him and how he got himself to the end, not Rob. So I
Yeah.
I don't think like when I think of like the worst like finalists ever, I don't think of Doral. Like I don't like think of how not to play the game and then look at Doral's game. Like I would never think of that. So I don't fully even agree with Jacques.
Yeah, and I mean, we do get Mike there coming in as well and saying, hey, that was a little bit harsh. And Jark was my favorite player of the season. I really, like, Rob probably would have been a close second for me, so I'm happy with the win here. But I get it. Like, Jark is a showman, and he needed to go out there, and I think it's a great way to start off the final tribal council. And, it definitely puts everybody on high alert. But I don't think everybody agreed necessarily with Jark in this instance that Doral had no shot. And you've also got to remember that Doral did Jark dirty more than anyone else because Doral was part of the Misfits alliance, which was Jark, Cipe, and Doral. And Doral never really came back to Cipe and Jark at any point. And I spoke to Jark this weekend, which, like I said, that interview will come out. He had plans to work with Doral at the merge, so that just never happened because Doral never came back to him, and he wasn't aware how close Doral was to Rob. So I think the selling point here for Doral would have been to go into this final tribal council and explain how he manipulated Rob into going for the targets that he wanted to. And he could have said the same thing like Nicole said, where I was the network that brought the information back to Rob. So, Rob didn't have to go out there and make those social connections and bonds with different people and people getting to like him as much as, sadly, some of you guys trusted me and you liked me a lot and you gave me information. And I made sure that Rob's target was always aiming at someone else. I realized that I didn't have the social gain and capital here to make the decisions myself, but I was helping dictate where the votes were going, and I was always on the right side of the votes. I knew where the votes were going. So I feel like there was more that he could have done in regards to selling his game in that sense. Now, what do you think of this final tribal configuration and the way that it is done? Because it's very old school. Do you prefer this to what Survivor is currently doing, or do you prefer the new school way of doing tribal councils?
I would say I prefer this. I prefer the old school, but I'm not too bothered by the new format like some are. If it were up to me, I would choose the old school because it makes for some great moments like, Trish in Cagayan or, Sue in Borneo. And you don't really have an opportunity for that with the new format, but it doesn't bother me too much. It was refreshing though, to see this format back, which is just another reason why I like International Survivor.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of this. I like the fact that everybody that's on the jury, they get an opportunity to address the final three here. With the new format, it seems that there's always 3 or 4 spokespeople that are chosen to sort of have their say, and then the rest of the people in the jury, they don't get their opportunity to talk. And it might be that they do, but we just don't see it because they edit it out in the later seasons. But I like the fact that the jury can direct the questions. I mean, we would never have had that question. I forgot what her name was that Parvati got at the end of Micronesia from the girl who asked her if that his social game translates into the bedroom. Things like that, just really iconic, funny moments that you get from it that is now lost on us because it's gone. But it was quite interesting because Rob kind of, when he answered the question, he actually answered the question in a new school format because he explained how he outwitted, outplayed, and outlasted everyone to be able to win the title. So he kind of unknowingly, because I know Rob wasn't a big Survivor fan prior to playing this, he only watched Survivor All-Stars and I believe the first season of Survivor in Philippines. Those were the seasons he watched. So he wasn't a massive fan, but he unknowingly actually answered in the new school format.
Yeah, that was I noticed that too. I was about to say that. Yeah, there still can be kind of a mix between it. Maybe you could go through the outwit, outplay, outlast, but still have individual speeches with the jurors. I think that would be cool to see.
Yeah, 100%. Now, when we look at this, Jake, who were the votes for you that was the most surprising here in the finale? Were you shocked at any of the votes that were going for certain people, or were you across it? For me personally, I was shocked that Jark ended up voting for Nicole. I thought he would have voted for Rob playing such a great game, but Jark was, convinced that Nicole played the better game here because of how she handled her final trouble. And I've got to admit that Nicole changing her tactic here to not go and attack the jury and talk about how superior they were, because she was always saying we were going into this finale and to the final tribal council telling them that we had true trust and this is what trust looked like, kind of preaching to them, which would have been the complete wrong strategy. And I think
Yep.
she would have gotten demolished. She did change her tactic and acknowledge the fact that she needed to own her game a little bit. But were there other votes there that also surprised you? For me, it was probably the Jark one, I would say. And also I was quite surprised at how hurt Steffi and Sipe was with Rob cutting them, because I guess Sipe was more justified because she always wanted to work with Rob, but Steffi really shouldn't have felt that way because she was going to gun for Rob, so he had to do what was best for
Yeah,
him.
exactly. Steffi and Jacques were definitely the two ones that shocked me. Obviously, it's he was there on the island. You know, he has a different perspective than we do. But from what we saw and what we saw other people say, I mean, they all said Rob was controlling the game. And to see Jacques, who claims to be a huge fan of strategy, you would think that he would, vote for who everyone else thought was the best strategic player in Rob, but he didn't. And Steffi, after seeing how her whole speech was pretty much to go at Nicole and then vote for her, and like really, really complimenting her. She didn't even really say like how she was hurt, and then she changed her mind, but she just started off with, "Oh, I think you played an impeccable game, da 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 da, more compliments, blah blah blah." And I was like, "Wow, okay." Um, CPay and Quobus didn't really shock me too much, but I really liked Quobus's voting confessional to Nicole. I liked the friendship between those two. I think it was great.
Yeah, and he recognized that he wanted to be friends with her outside of the game, and he could separate between the game and friendship in real life, which I think is why he voted in the way that he did. And I hope for their sake they're still friends, because I do think that their personalities just gel really well together. One of the things for me here at the end as well that was quite shocking was Dante's vote going to Rob. But I think that, we spoke a little bit about that with Rob when he was on the first time around, and he said that, him and Dante actually squashed things afterwards, and they realized they actually got along pretty well outside of the game. It's just they were in opposing sides of the game. They're both alpha guys, and they were
Yeah.
both trying to like win the game, and it just didn't work for them in the game. And I think that, if Rob didn't take him out where he took him out, he would have come for him. But hats off to Dante for not holding a grudge, because he got voted out because he was the main competitor to Rob there. And obviously he was, I felt like Rob answered his question really well. Like people who were less socially savvy or have less of a presence would have maybe backed down to Dante being quite aggressive to them, but Rob kind of answered it back by saying, you have to realize, and he said it in a respectful way, that yes, you were a threat to me, but the place that I outplayed you was the social game. You have to take that on board. Now, if we look at this season as a whole, I didn't get much of an opportunity to talk to you throughout the season. Who would be the players that you would have to endorse to come back and play in Survivor South Africa's first All-Star season? Who do you want to see more of in future seasons?
Nicole for sure. Dante, I really liked. Quobus, really liked. There are a lot. Jacques, Mike, Sipe. I mean, really any of them. But I would say my top three are Nicole, Jacques, and I mean, I would like to see Rob back, but he won, so I'm kind of focusing more on the people that didn't win. Nicole, Jacques,
Yeah.
and I'll say Dante because I thought he was really fun.
Yeah, so if you had to give me three people, Jark is top of my list of people I want to see come back and play again. Jark did say that it would be tough for him to come back, but listen to the interview with him, guys. I'll sort of won't spoil it here, but what would make him come back? What is the circumstances that he would want to come and play the game again? But Jark is high up for me on that list. I would like to see Steffi come back again. I've found her to be a really polarizing character, but I just loved her straightforwardness, and I think she's an athlete, and I would love to see if she brings a different game, because she nearly got him. She nearly got Rob, and I feel like if she got Rob, she would have had a good chance at winning the whole game, because she would have had the biggest move of the whole season that she could have fallen back on. And then lastly, I probably would say I wasn't a big fan of this person's game the first time I saw it. I thought they talked a big game and they never really followed through, but I would love to see if they could follow through if they played the next time, and that's going to be Mike Fenter for me. I feel like he was a young guy when he played the first time. He was only like 20 years old. An older Mike Fenter. I don't want to see him in the next All-Stars. I don't want to see him there as a 24-year-old or something. I want to see him come back for the second or third All-Stars where he's a bit older, 28 or 30. He's got a bit more life experience, and I want to see what he can potentially do. But you're right in saying that there was a lot of big characters, and I don't know if I mentioned Dante. I really want to see Dante come back as well. I feel like he's just a really good character. He's explosive, and you're going to get entertainment if you have him back out there as well. And Rob, I'd love to see Rob play the game again, but I think that Rob comes back. He's got the biggest target on his head of any Survivor South African player. He's going to be voted out first. He's going to be one of the first to go. So if I was Rob, I wouldn't come back unless it's an all-winners South African season, or it's like a winners versus runners-up international theme season or something. It would have to be a very big season with other big characters for him to have any chance at surviving. Jake, any final thoughts there from you on this finale episode that we saw today?
I will say that I think for Rob's final tribal council performance, I think Leticia summed it up pretty well in her voting confessional. He decided to put his big boy panties on and admit that he was the master puppeteer and that he controlled the game. It was really annoying me how he was just, not saying,
owning it at times.
Yeah, he's just not owning his game. And I'm like, I think that that's what the jury wants you to do. I think you're doing exactly the opposite. And, Nicole was gaining on him, but then finally he knew he had to, okay, yeah, I completely dominated this game, and I was very happy that he ended up winning. He's a great winner.
Yeah, and I think that it comes down to Rob's personality. He does come across as just being this gentle big giant, like even at the end there at the reunion show, you just see he put on all the muscle and all the bulk again, but he's a very soft-spoken guy as well, and he just seems very gentle in general. So I don't think it comes naturally to him to talk himself up or to elevate him at the expense of others, like he said when Maba tried to get him to do that. But Leticia's question was great, because she was like, you guys need to throw each other under the bus right now and tell me why I need to vote for you, because you're too close. And I really feel like Leticia added a lot to this season. She really was actually a great character. I was a little bit gutted we didn't see more of her until the finale couple of episodes, where we got to see a little bit more of her in the confessionals, because I feel like she would have been this person throughout the whole season, but there was too many other big characters that we needed to focus on. Now, guys, if you got to this part of the finale recap, we thank you for watching this. Please hit the subscribe button. We're actually getting pretty close to 700 subscribers now. We're a couple of subscribers off from that. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers so we can do another special event here on Reality Pop. Jake, who's with us today, he was our runner-up for the annual Survivor trivia for Reality Pop. So congratulations on that, Jake. We haven't actually spoken since then. We're hoping to do more events like that as we hit other milestones. And we will be back this week as well with an interview from Jark Burger that will drop on Wednesday in the US and Thursday in South Africa, Australia, and New Zealand. And then towards the end of next week, around the same time as we did this interview, we will also be doing a retrospective of this whole season with Adam Adam Jumba and Riley, who should be back by that time. But if for any reason Riley can't make it, then Jake will probably, hopefully, be able to substitute. And again, so it's not just me and Adam talking about the season. Guys, it's been great having you on here. We will be back to talk about Immunity Island as well for the next season. And we're looking forward to getting into all things International Survivor. It is great to have a season finally coming up in June that we can watch, which isn't a rewatch of an old season. And I think everybody would agree to that. We'll talk to you next time, guys. Thanks.